Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us all. Project Director of ISF PYT, Mas Thomas Noto Suneto, and Moderator, Mbak Sisi Aspasia, distinguished guests, all participants of the Indonesia-Singapore Foreign Policy Youth Talks, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono. I am the chairman of Democratic Party, Partai Demokrat, one of the biggest political parties in Indonesia. We have more than 10 million constituents from Aceh to Papua. I am also the executive director of the Yudhoyono Institute, an independent think tank that focuses on the issues of democracy, security, and prosperity, as well as the promotion of young leadership throughout the country. It is an honor for me to speak before this forum. My special appreciation goes to the committee supported by the Singapore Global Network and Foreign Policy Talks Discussion Club for organizing this event. Through meaningful conversations and exchanges of ideas among academics and students, government officials, business practitioners, as well as politicians like myself here, I hope we can all explore the opportunities to work and move forward together towards a better future of our two countries. Please accept my apology for not being able to attend this forum in person due to my other engagements. However, I hope I can still share my perspectives and contribute to the discussion on several key issues, particularly regarding democracy and its challenges, and why we must prepare our young generations to take up those challenges. I must say that this event is a great platform for us to better understand each other regarding the two countries' foreign policy, as well as various other relevant topics around the region, which include the political and socio-economic trends in the Asia-Pacific region, the relevance of ASEAN, and most importantly, efforts in strengthening the people-to-people context between Indonesians and Singaporeans. As you may know, Singapore has a special place in my heart. So when I received this invitation, my memory goes back to the days when my wife and I, as a newlywed couple, lived in Harbourfront area during my postgraduate program at Nanyang Technological University in 2005-2006. We certainly enjoyed our time there, especially when our Singaporean friends invited us to the famous Mandarin's Hainan chicken rice during the weekends. Meanwhile, as an active military officer back then, I also took part in multiple professional exchanges and joint exercises between the TNI and the Singaporean Armed Forces. And for our family, our big family, Singapore will always be special. Our late mother, Ibu Ani Yudhoyono, was treated at the National University Hospital for 5 months until she passed away peacefully. We will never forget how the Singaporean government was truly thoughtful in assisting our family during the toughest days in our lives. This is just a small example of how profound the relationship between Indonesia and Singapore. We share the same borders and geographical proximity as neighboring countries. More than 25,000 Indonesians study in Singapore, and the number increases from time to time. Our relations also underpin strong economic cooperation. Our bilateral trade reached $59 billion in 2019, and then slightly declined to around $48.8 billion in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, Singapore has been the top foreign investor in Indonesia until today. Both countries also have substantive cooperation across multiple sectors, including education, culture, defense, and environment. Therefore, building a solid partnership and relations between Indonesia and Singapore should always be our top priority. We must strengthen our government-to-government relations, accompanied by second-track and multi-track diplomacies, including empowering business-to-business, military-to-military, academics to academics, and above all, people-to-people contacts, particularly between our youth that will shape our future. We must understand each other better and how both countries' youth could play bigger roles as the agents of change and transformation within our respective societies. We must also strengthen our commitment to building Southeast Asia as a region of peace and stability, allowing the flourishing of democracy and prosperity. All members of ASEAN, particularly Indonesia and Singapore, must be on the driving seats. We should always seek our common interests so that ASEAN will always be our big house of comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation. When the world is becoming more and more borderless, ASEAN must prove itself that it is still relevant as a credible regional architecture that provides solutions not only for its member states, but also other countries around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, young people are the key holders of the global future. In Indonesia, Generation Z, born between 1997 to 2012, has reached 75 million people, equal to 28% of the country's total population. Meanwhile, the second most dominant population comes from the millennial generation, born between 1981 to 1996, totaling 69 million people, or around 26%. It means Gen Z and the millennials compose more than half of Indonesia's total population. Therefore, it won't be too much to say that youth will define and shape our future, politically, economically, and socially. The next questions are, how can we support our youth to keep pace with the future's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, to establish our regional security and prosperity? At the same time, how can we strengthen our democracy to pursue peace and stability, as well as sustainable economic growth with equity? Ladies and gentlemen, democracy may not be a perfect political system, but I believe democracy is still the best system for a large and diverse nation such as Indonesia. Through a good system of democracy, we can ensure that every citizen is treated equally. The people's voices are heard and public participation is encouraged so that transparent and accountable political system and good governance can be established. Democracy should also be the driving force for development and progress. We know that democracy has a very wide spectrum, from guided democracy to liberal democracy. While guided democracy, which is run in several countries, may somewhat sacrifice people's freedom for the sake of political stability and economic progress, on the other hand, liberal democracy is largely oriented to support democratic pillars such as more vibrant civil society, freedom of speech, freedom of the press and association, division of authority, constitutional protection of minority rights, respect for human rights and equality before the law, and also direct and fair election to set up checks and balance system. However, the quality of democracy should not be determined solely based on regular election processes. The quality of our democracy is much more complex than that. We must continuously improve the quality of our democracy and at the same time anticipate the trend of democratic regression that is happening in many parts of the world. In the United States, several Western European countries, and some Asian countries, we have seen how the extreme political polarization is getting deeper and wider. Black versus white, left versus right, conservative versus liberal, religious versus nationalist, and in Indonesia, Islamist versus Pancasila, or one identity versus the others. The prolonged clashes among powers, interests, and identities are not only counterproductive to the very ideas of democracy itself, but also dangerous for our nation's unity and harmony. They must be neutralized and mitigated adequately because the socio-political price is too high for our country's long-term stability and security. In Indonesia, we are also experiencing an unfortunate trend of democratic regression in recent years. This phenomenon is supported by several international institutions, such as the Australian National University, which in 2020 identified that Indonesian democracy moving from stagnation to regression. Meanwhile, the Economist Intelligence Unit, EIU, in its 2020 Annual Democracy Index, has put Indonesia with a quiet low score of 6.30, the lowest score in the last 14 years. In 2021, the score slightly increases to 6.71. However, civil liberties remain low, while the political culture merely declines. As a result, Indonesia is still categorized as a flawed democracy. It is a serious wake-up call after we have been struggling in the last 2 decades to build, consolidate, and improve our democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, based on my direct observation, Indonesian politics is currently facing 3 major challenges that would seriously impact the future of our democracy, the unity of our country, and the realization of our long-term vision, Indonesia Emas 2045, or Indonesia's golden era in 2045. First, money politics. Democracy should provide ample space for all of us to choose the best individuals as the executive and legislative leaders based on their vision, commitment, and platforms. National and local elections should be the premier avenue for the contestation of intellectual and leadership capacity and integrity. But in reality, our politics becomes more and more transactional. For the sake of electoral victory, money politics have become a shortcut strategy to win the people's votes. Second, identity politics. More groups and politicians think that the exploitation of identity politics will become the most effective and efficient political strategy for winning electoral support. By touching and exploiting the people's primordial sentiments or certain identities such as religion, race, or ethnicity, political forces could easily mobilize people to support their political and economic interests. This is very dangerous. Identity politics may bring political victory for a candidate or political party in the short term, but in the long run, the damage, including socio-political polarization and potential disintegration, could occur. Again, the price is just too high. Diversity is a strength, but on the other hand, it can become a source of national division if we don't take good care of it. Regardless of our religion, race, and ethnicity, democracy teaches us that we are one as a nation. Third, post-truth politics. The politics of slander and character assassination are not something new, but in this digital era, it gets easier and cheaper to orchestrate post-truth politics blindly. Hoax, black campaign, hate speech, and various other forms of disinformation seem to be the new norms in our contemporary democratic life. It is terrible to know how easy it is for anyone to become the slanderous victim and powerless to fight back and provide clarification. When the lies are repeated massively and structurally, sooner or later, they will become the new truths. The more sophisticated information and communication technology, as well as the wider penetration of social media, should be followed up by building our awareness and responsibility. Buzzers are more rampant, producing and spreading slander and lies, including destroying the reputation of person or group whom they consider as political rivals or competitors. On the other hand, freedom of expression in digital democracy also often becomes criminalized. Therefore, the presence of independent and credible press is highly needed as an objective reference for the public during a tsunami of disinformation in cyberspace. As one of the pillars of democracy, the media must take part in fighting post-truth politics. Democratic values are like oxygen. We never think about oxygen for us to breathe and survive. We often forget to thank God for the availability of oxygen around us. But when the oxygen we breathe is slightly reduced, like when someone is severely infected by the coronavirus, we immediately scream for help. It means we should never take oxygen for granted. It is the same with democratic values that uphold diversity, harmony, and unity. When all of these exist in our society, we never realize and be grateful for it. But as soon as they are a little disturbed and threatened, we as a nation will cry out for help. So never take any of them, diversity, harmony, unity, for granted. We must take care and fight for those fundamentals forever. And we must pass such a spirit from one generation to another. The Indonesian democracy is still indeed facing challenges in its capacity to establish good, clean, and effective governance. Therefore, I would encourage the young generation to actively get involved in the political dynamics and democratic processes for the betterment and the advancement of our current situation. Ladies and gentlemen, 23 years from now, in 2045, Indonesia will commemorate its 100th year of independence. At that time, we hope to realize the golden era of our nation. I have a dream that in 2045, Indonesia will become a vibrant democracy, a strong economy, a just and prosperous country, and a significant global player. But can we make it happen? I think we have a very good chance to achieve that vision, given, among other factors, we have the luxury of having young demography. Between the year of 2030 and 2040, it has been predicted that Indonesia would enjoy its demographic dividend, where 70% of the population would be classified as productive. However, the critical question would be, will our young demography necessarily or directly translate into great success? Well, I personally don't think that it would be wise to make such an assumption. Again, we should never take anything for granted. We must work very hard and go the extra miles. There are at least two imperatives. First, we must build our national resilience. Just like when we fight COVID-19 or any diseases, our body needs strong immune system. Today, our common enemy is not colonialism or foreign military threats. Rather, we are going to face more and more disruptions and turbulences that may hinder our progress of development, ranging from the problems of scarcity of energy, food, water, and other vital life sources, to global warming and climate change, to the rapid advancement in technology that may create greater gaps between the rich and the poor, to global pandemics, just like what we are suffering right now. In order to cope with those pressing issues and challenges, we as a nation must be united to survive and persevere. We must strengthen our synergy and collaboration, collectively be part of the solution, take real actions, and create real changes. Second, we must strengthen our national competitiveness by significantly improve the quality of our human capital. Human capital development through better education and training, health services, and social welfare is very critical in this endeavor. Allow me to appreciate what Singapore has greatly done in recent decades in the human capital development sectors. It is fair to say that Indonesia can learn from the success story of its closest neighbor. In facing the challenges of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 and Society 5.0 today, the younger generation must equip themselves with the 21st century skills. Among them are learning skills, to be able to think critically, to promote creativity and innovation, and to synergize and collaborate with various stakeholders. These learning skills must also be built upon adequate learning culture, including our ability to adapt to new technological developments and to the ever-changing regional and international environment. We must also equip our people with literacy skills to be able to master information and communication technology. And lastly, life skills, especially those related to adaptive leadership competencies that are full of initiative, creativity, and innovation. To synergize all these efforts, we need visionary and transformational leadership, the leadership that can unite our diversity, and the leadership that can multiply all the capacity and potentials possessed by our nation, especially our human resources. Ladies and gentlemen, I strongly believe that youth is power. Muda adalah kekuatan in ideas and in actions. Youth represents opportunity to change, adapt, and challenge the status quo. Such a belief makes a large room for optimism and hope for the future. I would like to invite all of us, especially the young generation of Indonesia and Singapore, to prove that youth is power. Prove that young people have time, energy, and courage. The courage to get out of the comfort zone and make positive impacts. Let us prove that we can optimize our capacities to answer the current and future opportunities and challenges with our resiliency and competitiveness. Let's dream big. Let's work hard and never give up. Let's do our best and be the best that we can be. I remember one thought-provoking quote from Steve Jobs saying that, "If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today?" So have the courage to follow your heart and intuition like there's no tomorrow. Never procrastinate, so you will never regret. Start now. Start from where you are with what you have. Don't be afraid and trust the process. It is the kind of mindset we need to have to achieve success and great things in life. This process is not a sprint, yet this is a marathon. So focus on the destination, but enjoy and embrace the journey with its ups and downs. I truly have big hopes and confidence that our young generation will collaborate and work together towards a better future. It won't be an easy path. Therefore, it will require all of us to stand strong and united along the way. Always be ready. Where there is a will, there is a way. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.